So, hello everyone. So, welcome to the first Android development workshop of Google Developer Student Clubs, University of Manchester. So, today we will be building a simple Android calculator app. So, who am I? I am the Android dev lead at GDSE Manchester. This is my GitHub and my LinkedIn, so give me a follow if you want. And please join the Discord server if you haven't already, because all our resources will be shared through that, and all our future meetings will be shared through Discord. Future workshops will be shared through Discord and also the community page of the GDSE. So yeah, and if you have any questions, there is a separate channel on the Discord, intro to app development questions. So be sure to post your questions on there, so that you can get it answered. So what will we be covering today? We will, as I said, be building a simple calculator Android app using Android Studio. We'll use the Android Studio designer and the XML to create the layout of the app, and to program the arithmetic functions, and by accessing the elements of the XML we use Java. So why Android Studio and what is Android Studio? Android Studio is Android's official IDE. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. So basically what that means is that it is one app that consolidates all of the tools that a programmer will need to develop software into a single application, and it takes care of most of the boilerplate stuff so that we can concentrate on the more important development parts. So let's get started. I hope everyone has Android Studio installed on your devices. We had the links for the instructions on the Discord, so yeah. So everyone, open up your Android Studio, and we're going to create a new project. So you do that by going to File, New Project, and since we're going to be building it for Android phones, we select Phone in the template, and then we're going to start off with a simple empty activity and give your application name. I'm just going to call it Calculator. And the package name is basically a unique identifier. So if you upload if you want to in the future upload your app to the Play Store, you'd want your app to have a unique identifier, and the package name is that identifier. So basically you would just go com.your username or your name dot the app name. We'll be using Java for this. So if you have Kotlin, if Kotlin is selected, please change it to Java. And the minimum SDK is basically you could have it to any SDK, but then if you select the newest one, Android API 33, you can see it will basically run on just less than 1% devices. We don't want that to happen, so we should be good with 21, as it said. Yeah, so approximately 98.8% of devices, so we're good with that. And yeah, you can just go ahead and finish. Now, so as you can see here, it's building the Gradle build is running. It can take a few minutes, so we'll give it some time, a few seconds. We'll give it some time. So as you can see here, in the meantime, Android Studio has already given us the basic code, and we don't have to type all of this from scratch. So that's what I meant by it takes care of most of the boilerplate stuff, and you'll see more of this later as we go on. So yeah, so every screen on the app has two parts. So it has the XML file, which is basically the layout of the app, and it has a Java file which controls the actual functions and the logic of the app. So first we'll try and edit the XML files so that we can edit the layout. So here you can see there's a design screen and there's a split screen, there's code, and Android Studio automatically has a simple text view that says hello world. We wouldn't be using that now, so let's get rid of that for now. So our app is basically going to have two text inputs, which basically number inputs for two operands, and then we're going to have 4 buttons for add, subtract, multiplication, division, and we're going to have a final text that basically outputs the final value of the operation. So we're going to go ahead and add text input. So we do that by going to text, and then since we want number input and we want to accept decimals, we're just going to drag and drop it here. So there it is. That is our first text view. Now if you go in and look at the split screen, you can see the XML file that I was talking about. So Android Studio allows us to use the designer and the XML simultaneously, so that you can so it's basically Y-Civic editor. What you see is what you get. So yeah, and so as you can see here, it says there is an error. So it's underlined in red, which basically means there is an error. And to know what the error is, we just click on the error and then we press Alt Enter. It all automatically says, it asks us if we want to suppress the fact that there are missing constraints. For now, we don't want to suppress it. What we want to do is that if you basically see at the top here, it says we're using something known as a constraint layout. So what a constraint layout basically says that for every widget, so each element of the XML is treated as a widget, so this edit text would be a separate widget. So the constraint layout basically wants us to have, for every widget that we have to set constraints for both horizontal and vertical. So we do that by clicking on the element on the widget, and the constraints can either be to the parent or to another widget itself. So now we're just going to constrain it to the parent, both horizontally and vertically. You click on the circle, just a moment, and you take it there, yeah. And as you can see here on the side, it has already updated the code for us as we were designing. It has added the constraint top, constraint bottom, and everything to parent, which is what we want. So that would be our first edit text, and we're just going to add a hint to it just to let the user know what they're supposed to do with the edit text. And we're just going to say operand 1. So there you go. And for the ID, let's just say OP1 for operand 1. So that's our first edit text. We're just going to copy this code. And paste it again. And now as you can see here, it says another error, but that's pretty obvious because we can't have the same ID for two inputs. So we're just going to go and change that to OP2, operand 2. Just going to select it and bring it down. So here you can see operand 1, operand 2, both having ints, which is what we want. So yeah, there are the edit texts. Now we'll just quickly go and add the buttons as well. We can go into the design, buttons, a simple button. Yeah, right there. Go back to the split screen. Inside the text, we'll just add a plus sign to say that it's for addition. It's going to add, and again we have to add the constraints for this. So as I said, we can use the parent or another element. We're just going to use another element, that is operand 2 here as the constraint.
What's the difference between hint and text?
Yeah, so basically, if you open an app and then if you fill a form, you have some hint, right? So, and when you click on the form and you start typing, if I have the hint as operand 1, it doesn't. If you type something new, it doesn't say operand 1 and whatever you type, right? Does that make sense? If it is text, you're saying you're writing that text onto there. So when a user tries to enter input, he has to clear the text that we have already given, and he has to start writing it. So we don't want that to happen. So it's just like a placeholder. So yeah.
So it's like this. It's part of text as well, but you already have like a default value if someone wants hint, like a literal hint.
If you want to have a default value, you use a text.
Okay.
If you don't want to, if you just want to like give a hint, as the name suggests, you use hint. So yeah. I'll just go ahead and add the constraints. There you go. That's our first button there. I'm just going to copy it. Create 4 of them. change the texts. Yeah, there you go. And so there are the buttons ready. So now we have to add the final text view, which is basically, as the name suggests, a text, and we want it to output the value when we do the operation. So I'm just going to go design text view. So yeah,
constrain every time we want a new icon.
yeah, for a constraint layout, yes. So constraint layout is basically the most it's the best layout for Android development because it allows us to like have a lot of. So when you try to build more complex layouts, it sort of sometimes like not all Android screens are the same, right? So sometimes the screen overflows and stuff. So this would be the best layout. So yeah, for every time you have to constrain it.
Could you also please repeat why there are two screens in the design?
Yeah. So.
Why is one light? Why is one dark?
Yeah, so basically the dark one is a wireframe kind of thing. You don't really have to pay much attention to the dark. The light one is how it'll look on a phone. Oh, shit. Yeah, stop. Yeah. Okay. So we're just gonna edit the ID of the text view to output, and then let's just say enter operands and choose operation. Okay, output. There is our text view. So yeah, our layout is pretty much ready. We have our edit text, we have our buttons that are required, and we also have the text, which is going to be the output. So now we have to come up with a way to access the elements from the widgets from XML into Java file, so that we will be able to get the data from the input text and then edit text, and then push the output to the text view. So yeah, let's go and try to do that. So as you can see here, the Java file that's already been created, there's a class with the name of main activity, which is what the file name is, and it has a onCreate method which is going to be the first thing that runs when the app starts. So basically, for now, we're just setting the view to the layout activity main. So now we're going to reference the widgets in Java. So we're going to use we're first going to create all our elements as objects here. So we had two edit texts, OP1, OP2, and then we had 4 buttons. And as you can see here, it shows an error because we haven't imported the functions for button, the class button here. So we can do that by just simply clicking on it, as I said before, Alt Enter. Oh wait, it's a button, not a buttons. So yeah, Android Studio will automatically import it for us, and then we're going to create a text view.
OP1 is the I1.
No, you can. This is a variable name. You can have it ET1 or something as well.
So it doesn't have to match what we.
No, we'll match that later. So we're getting to that. We're creating a new text view, output, and then we're going to say okay. So now we're going to say edit text 1 is equal to find view by ID. So we're going to find the widget by its ID. And we're going to say r.id.r is the resources, r.id.op1, I guess. Yeah. and then et2 is similarly dot id dot op2. Oh. And then we'll just go and do the go and instantiate the button similarly. And then for the text view as well. Yeah. So now we have all the widgets in Java that we can use. So now what we're going to do is for each button, we're going to create a new function, and we're going to say whenever that button is clicked, we're going to run the function basically. So to create a new function, go outside this function and say public void function name, and then we're going to expect as arguments view, okay, view v. So basically what we're doing is we're saying it's a public class, and the return type we're going to say is void, because we're not going to return anything. We're just going to run the function when it's being called. So, and the logic is basically going to be, for the add function, we get the text from et1 and we get the text from et2. We get the float value of the text in et1, and similarly for et2, and we're going to add them. So we do that by saying string et1 equals string will say op1 is equal to et1 dot get text. So we're going to get the text from the edit text, and then we're going to convert it to a string, and then we're going to say we're going to do it similarly for op2. And then we're going to say float op1 number is equal to float dot. So we're going to we're going to use the pass float function to which expects a string as input. So what it basically does is converts a string into a float. We're going to pass op1, go home, copy, paste, op2. And so now we have the two floats that are required, and we're going to just find the output. Float out is op1 num plus op2 num. So yeah, and what we're going to do is for we have the number now, we have the output. We have to display it on the text view that we had before. So we're going to do that by saying output dot set text. We're going to say string dot value of, and we're going to pass the output float. So this should basically get the add function running. We're going to go to the main XML. I'm going to choose this button here, and then we're going to say on click, and we're going to say the function name, add function. So this should get us on the way. There are a few errors that might happen here. So what happens if you press the add button without entering inputs? It's going to crash. So we don't want it to crash. So we're just going to simply add a try catch statement, just so that we can handle the errors. Exception E. say enter all values to continue. So this is pretty much our add function. So we're just going to create similar functions for subtract, multiplication, and division. So we're just going to say this is subtract function, and we're going to say this too. Yeah, like that. So this is a division function, and usually when we code, we have to be really careful about dividing by 0, but in this case Java is taking care of it. So if we do a division by 0, we'll just output infinity, which is let's just pretend that's all right for now. Yeah. So we're going to go to activity main, and then we're going to add the function similarly. On click is the function. On click is one function. What happened? Okay. Yeah, now it should work. And then on click is a sub function, div function. So now we have mapped all the functions to our respective buttons. So this is for the first screen. Yeah, this works, this is all right, but what about creating a new screen? So I hope everyone here has heard about a splash screen. So what it basically is when you open an app, you just want to like show the logo for 2 seconds and then disappear and take you into the main screen. So we're going to try and code that. So how do we create a new activity? We go and click the folder here that's under the Java folder. We're going to click new activity, empty activity. Any other problems, doubts? Okay, cool. So we're going to create a new activity called splash screen.
I had one question.
Yeah.
What was text view for?
Yeah. So text view is basically a print in Python. So it's just outputting a text. So yeah, we're going to create a new splash screen. We're not going to change. We want it to be the launcher activity. Launcher activity is basically the first activity that will open up when you open your app, which is what we want the splash screen to be a launcher activity. So we're going to click yes, and we don't change anything. We click finish, and there it is, a new activity that's been created. We can go ahead and edit it now. So we don't want anything fancy here. We just want to show an image. So we can do that by going to widgets, image view, and we can just drag and drop here. For now, let it be the one this, and choose any image for now, and then we'll add the constraints as before. So there is our image view, and we want it to display our logo. So we do that by, we have a folder called res, which is the resources, and it has a drawable folder inside it. So whatever images that we want to show, we put it inside that folder and we call it from there. So let's just say I want to open the workshop folder, and grab the image and put it inside the drawable folder. Yeah, and there you see it's added it. So now inside the src compat, we're going to say drawable slash GDSE logo. You can add whatever image you want, doesn't matter. And yeah, that should work. So this is the simple layout that we want. But here for the code, what we want to do is we want to like wait for 3 seconds and then switch to a different activity. So how do you switch to a different activity? You go and say, you create a new intent. You do that by alt enter. Yeah, that will automatically import it for us. So intent I is new intent get application, and we want to say we want to go from the splash screen to main activity. So you enter the source splash screen dot this to main activity dot java dot class, sorry, and we're gonna run the intent by doing a start activity. I'm going to say I, which is the intent that we just created, and so this will open up a new activity, but it doesn't exactly achieve the purpose that we want it to. So we want to wait for 3 seconds and then open up the screen. So how do you wait for 3 seconds? If it was Python, you just say time.sleep 3 seconds and it work. But here it doesn't work in a similar way, because what happens is the main thread, we will not, the main code that's written here will get executed on the main thread. So the main thread executes the code here and also supports the UI. So if you can't just say stop for 3 seconds on the main thread, because if you stop the main thread, it's going to crash the UI. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, main thread, you keep running whatever you want. I'm going to create a new thread. I'm going to branch off of it, create a new thread, wait for 3 seconds, and then move to a different activity. So we're going to create a new thread, and we do that by saying new handler, and we're going to say dot. So this has a function called post delete, which has 2 inputs. So basically a runnable, which is going to be what we want to run, an object that we want to run, and then a wait, a delay millis, which basically is the delay time in milliseconds. So if you want 3 seconds, you say 3000. So which is going to enter the delay millis first, and then we're going to create a new runnable object, and we do that by creating this, and that's the magic of Android Studio. I just had to press enter and it automatically fills up the boilerplate stuff. So what we can do here is just copy the code and paste it here. Cut the code. Yeah, we don't want it there. So yeah, this should run. But what happens is if you try to run this, it will run. But if you go back after you go to the main screen, if you press the back button, it will still take you to the splash screen, which is not something we want. So what we want to do is, after you do the start activity, we're going to say finish. So that would basically not let the user come back to the splash screen after we go to the main activity. So yeah, this should work if I can get my phone to connect properly. This is the app. You open it, you type the operands, add them, you get the result. You can do anything, and if you remove, let's say, if you don't enter anything for the operand 2, it's going to say please enter all fields with the float value. So that is pretty much the app, and yeah, thank you. You can yeah, one second. So if you want to get the certificates, make sure you scan the QR code and fill in the feedback and the certificate form. The certificate for the previous workshop will be out in a few days. Yeah. So I hope everyone scanned it. Phones. Yeah. So now Marlon will take. Yeah, so now I'll let Marlon take off from here.
So we have some society news for this week. So the first year hackathon interest form is out. So if you guys scan that QR code, it should take you to a link tree, basically everything I'm talking about. And if you're first year and you're interested in competing in the hackathon, I recommend you just go ahead, fill that in, and let us know what sort of things you expect from us, etc. and stuff like that. And then we are hiring on the competitive programming team and social media teams. So if you're interested in joining that, there are the recruitment forms on there. I've made them as quick as possible, so it's mostly just resume and your LinkedIn mostly. There's no like, oh, I did this, long text to answer, so it should be quick. And yeah, that's it from me. Thank you guys for attending.
Okay, so next week we are going to have a speaker session and we are not going to have a workshop. So just before the week, we are going to have a speaker from IBM. So you guys are most welcome to come. It would be on same time from 4 to 5 and it would be in Lecture Theatre 1.1. We will post it on our social media, so please come and you will get the opportunity to network with IBM person. So yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for the workshop. And if you have any doubts, just ask any one of us.
Yeah, if anyone's struggling with anything, we've got a team back here.
Do we have to apply again and
I mean, yeah, it would be great because we are planning to bring some more snacks like pizza and all. So if we RSVP, then we will get to know the number and through that we can apply for the budget in GDSC and we can bring. So okay. Next week on Wednesday from 4 to 5. Okay. Huh? It's about basically what her role is, what she's doing, and you will get to know about the company and how they work and everything. So everything will be posted on our social medias and everything will be told to you. Okay? Yeah. And please tell your friends too to come because it would be a speaker session. It won't be here. It would be Lecture Theatre 1.1. It's really big, so. Huh? Huh? In Gilborne, yeah. In Gilborne. We will post it. Don't worry. In Gilborne. Okay.